Good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, I'm joined by Chris Lynch, who is an author, an SEO specialist from a company called Gravit-e. And we're going to have a little chat about business, lockdown, networking, and also and SEO, I suppose, as well. So we'll have a chat about it all, really. How are you doing this afternoon, Chris? You okay?
I'm very well. Yeah, I'm very well. I'm almost acclimatized to the heat now, but other than that, I'm really good. I love working from home, so it suits me.
Okay,
so I've probably adapted maybe better to it than other people have, I think.
Yeah, well, I was lucky. I was working from home for the last 8 years anyway, so I've been 8 years in lockdown, and everyone else just joined me in March.
That's it. I know. People's going, oh no, you'll be in a room for sort of 8 or 9 hours on your own with just a computer, and it's like, yes, my teens.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I spent my entire sort of teenage life.
That sounds fantastic. Like, just the 9? Can I not get 10? It's lovely.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about working from home and having meetings at home as well is I used to like having a cider with people whilst having a meeting, and socialising.
I do miss like the rounds of tea, the communal process. The office, that's probably the only office ritual I miss is, the communal making of tea, and then the subtle political balance of who you make tea for, who makes tea back for you, like who gets left out of the round. It's all, you can tell a lot.
When I get left out of the round because I'm great at being made tea for, but I'm not a massive tea drinker anyway. I don't mind people making tea for me, but I'm not very good at making tea for other people because usually I'm just too busy.
Okay.
I get dropped out quite easy early on, I
think it's a great. Probably because I'm swayed by a cup of tea. So it's a great lubricant, I think, where you sort of go, if someone arrives and just puts an unsolicited cup of tea on the desk, I'm always quite wary. It's like, you want something, and this is the bribe. This is the bribe that's arrived. Is this cup of tea? I am shocking at coffee though, because I don't like coffee. So
that's the same as me. So you don't know how to make it.
I apply the process like a recipe. I do it and I go, right, these things in this order. And then the person gets it and goes, oh God, that's awful. Honestly, I could have a mass spectrometer, and I could measure everything to like the nanogram. I'd still make a horrible cup of coffee.
Yeah. Well, that sometimes goes down to the coffee bean as well, I think, apparently. I've never drunk coffee.
I don't know. Basically, if you're a barista, you're safe. I'm not coming for you because can't do it. Shocking.
Coffee used to be like my kryptonite. I couldn't stand even the smell of it now, so it used to be difficult when I used to meet people in shops and stuff,
I don't like the smell of it. I don't like the smell of it either.
Yeah, but I've got over the smell of it now because I've done so many meetings in so many coffee shops since I've been self-employed, So, following up after networking, so either in a coffee shop or it's in a pub. My choice is a pub. Other people sometimes choose the coffee shop.
Yes, yeah. I remember years ago, and I sort of, much earlier in my career, going around with somebody, and we had a meeting in a coffee shop. And they said, what do you want? So, can I have a cup of tea, please? They said, yeah, fine, no problem. And came back with a black coffee. And it was the first time we'd ever met this person. And the guy I was with, who was sort of, there to train me, just like, get it down, you son. And that was it. I was like, oh God. Honestly, it was like taking a bullet for the team. It was like, here I go.
I wouldn't have been able to do it. I just wouldn't have been able to do it, right? I've actually been made, like when you say tea and sometimes people hear coffee because they're coffee drinkers or whatever.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
So like a couple of times you go on appointments or something and like someone, and I've actually drunk it thinking it was tea because sometimes you can't tell the difference. It's just dark liquid.
I think this is my number one networking tip because people say, oh, would you like a coffee? And then there's the inherent awkwardness of going, actually, no, do you have tea? Which, no matter how many times I have to say it, I still sound like, the Duchess. It's like, oh, actually, can I have tea? Do you not have Earl Grey? So honestly, PG tips. 1 sugar, bit of milk. I'm not fussy. I'm not even a purist.
I'm like that as well. Just tea, just
honestly,
think it,
any bag from Lidl, absolutely fine. It doesn't matter. People go, do you want a coffee? And then you feel really cheerful going, oh, actually, can I have a cup of tea? It's like, because I'm so
we both do SEO and we both drink tea the same. This is spooky.
This is it. I'm not asking for like the full, I don't want the full tea set and the ritual and all that. No, just a mug of tea.
I always say, just a good old builder's tea will do, whatever it is.
The closer to orange, the better. You know. Yeah, so that's my number one networking tip. Stop asking people if they want a coffee.
Well, I've actually succumbed, and I actually don't like coffee, but I always ask people after networking events, do they want to meet up for a coffee?
I know,
don't even like coffee.
It's like a shorthand. You know,
it's just easier, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I'd love to meet up with you, Mike, but not for coffee. No.
Yeah, fair enough. So, so anyway, the place I usually start, which is, I don't normally have team conversations, but I enjoyed it. Now, the place I usually like to start, because obviously I set up my podcast in lockdown, and lockdown is of the moment. So I always like to get a bit of a feeling for how lockdown has been for you. And also, if you've done any particular pivoting, obviously you've mentioned working from home, which is a big one. Yeah. Have you done anything else different in your business during that time?
Okay. So in some ways, we haven't been doing anything different because our main niche that we work in is integrated e-commerce sites, and we do a lot of business to business and a lot of business to consumer and a lot of combined sites as well. You know, so there's plenty of businesses out there who will sell business to business, and they'll also sell direct to consumer, but obviously with different deals. And that's kind of one of our specialisms really is bringing all those B2B rules into the online space. You know, so I always say, you know, B2C, all customers are treated with equal contempt. You know, everyone gets the same price. Everyone's got the same access to stock. Everyone's got the same shipping rules. You go into the B2B world, everyone's got a different deal. Everyone's got a different contract, and and never the twain must mix. You know, these things have to be sort of perfect. Yeah. So for us, lockdown has been incredibly busy because we haven't had to really pivot much, if at all. But what we have found is a lot of our customers have gone from being predominantly B2B and they do some B2C to now predominantly B2C, and they're not doing as much B2B, because obviously those B2B customers aren't there, you know, to be serviced, but the products still are. So that's sort of been quite an eye opener, I think. You know, how much untapped demand maybe there was there, or how much will swing back the other way, as sort of if and when lockdown reverses. Will that go back? You know, if it was 80-20 and it's now 20-80, will it go back all the way, or will the needle kind of lay somewhere in the middle? Yeah, you know, will it rock into place in the middle? Working from home, I have to say, was no transition for us really, because we already, as you know, I was out a lot of the time anyway, so we'd organised everything so that people could work from anywhere. And so actually, yeah, when we said, right, we'll all start working from home, nothing really changed that much. You know, people who I work with, they'll email you from across the room anyway. You know, they could be within a yard. They can be within a yard of you, and they're sending you an email. And you're like,
you'd rather send 50 emails than have one conversation.
Yeah, you know, and it's just, you know, that's why it's so hard to get a brew out of them. You know,
because they're busy typing all day long.
That's it. Yeah. But I will say one thing I don't miss is the traveling all over the country, because we've got customers all over the place. And I think, whereas my sort of, you know, my built-in historical trained reflex was, okay, you want to talk about these things, I'll come and see you. I can do that in about 2 weeks. And then I've got to organize my life that week around the fact that, I'm, you know, sorry guys, I've got to leave at 4 a.m. on Thursday because I've got like a 4-hour drive to get to here. And particularly with like what it's like trying to get out of South Wales, you know, when everyone was traveling, it was just, you know, just horrendous. You know, so sort of get up to London, try and do most of a full day of work, and then get back again. It actually kind of ripples out to all the days around it. So what I am finding now, which is brilliant, is I can, you know, I start a bit earlier, I finish a bit later, but I do like 5 times more video conferences.
Yeah.
You know, and I think video conferencing, which was something we were always saying, look, let's try and do this more, and then you know, we can do things faster. You don't have to wait for me to be in the right city at the right time. Have gone from being sort of this is exotic, isn't it? This is strange. Look, he's in the television. You know, what's going on? To being just the norm. Now everybody does it. Everybody does it. And I think that's one of the things with lockdown. It's hard sometimes, I think, to be very positive about lockdown, because obviously the reason we're all on lockdown is a horrendous thing. You know, in this country, everywhere, you know, anywhere you look, you just think this is, you know, it's beyond belief, I think, in many ways what's going on all over the planet. So it's a bit hard sometimes to sort of go, actually, yeah, it's been really great.
Well, I've had a great lockdown myself.
Lockdown's amazing, yeah, and that's it, you know, and it's I mean, I've taken up a new instrument.
Yeah, I started a new podcast. I started YouTube.
You know,
I've started doing loads of things. I started exercising twice a day.
Yeah. Oh,
rather
honestly,
than twice a week.
Yeah, I've lost weight. I mean, it's such a shame that I'm not out and about because I think I'm in the best shape of the last 10 years.
Yeah. That's a bit like me, really.
Like,
I've
if
lost
you
a lot
could
of shape,
see me now,
unfortunately, those women can't see me. Like I'm stuck.
I know.
I'm stuck behind a Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think The Rock has got much to worry about, but I'm telling you, it's happening. So I think that's one of the things. That's sort of my secret hope in terms of lockdown is that as we start to come out of it, it won't just be a fight to revert to normality. That we'll fight again. We'll find the dance, sort of land somewhere in the middle, and we'll get the best things that we had before, but we'll try and keep some of the best things that we've got now. And you can go really deep on this stuff. Like, I don't know if you've seen like the pictures of Venice and all the canals and how clean they are
that's
now.
Fantastic for the world of the planet.
We've got birds in our garden. I mean, I am by no means, an ornithologist, but my wife, now she knows all about them. She's gone, that's such and such and that's such and such. And it's like, we've never had these in the garden before. It is absolutely alive out there. We saw a heron, the size of a car bonnet the other day down in the park just by us, where you would never see the like before. So I think, sort of overall, in my tiny bubble and being completely selfish about it, yes, lots of, business has been very good, and we've been lucky in that. I'm reticent to say that we've been lucky because things like the ability to do everything remotely, we built into the business.
And
we spent
just
the money.
Embracing technology, so therefore the luck was on your side. Same as me. We were already venturing towards this new utopia anyway. And the people who were dragging their knuckles behind, they had to make much more change, whereas people like myself and you who were technical businesses, we didn't really have to change that much.
No, that's it. So it's an interesting one. I mean, I sort of likened it the other day. Someone was sort of really railing against it on a social network. And so I said, this is like, when they tried to smash the looms at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. I don't think in terms of business and technology, and just to sort of keep it in that sphere, that coronavirus has done anything that wouldn't have happened anyway. It's more like a catalyst. It's just accelerated that whole process.
I'd say 30 years worth of work in 3 months.
Yeah. I'd say we've easily jumped forward, sort of culturally within business massively.
Yeah.
And I think unless there is some silver bullet that comes flying in to say, actually, here you go, here's a tablet, take one of those every 6 months and you're going to be fine. I think some things will be impossible to revert. But I also think, people don't necessarily want to go back to certain things. I was thinking this morning about weekends, and at the moment the weekend still exists.
No.
And whether one of the things that we could kind of do, because we have all these problems like you open up a pub, everyone goes into the pub, and then everybody gets ill. So what if we said, right, no more weekends, and everyone had different days off?
Yeah.
So my weekend, my 2 days off are in fact Monday and Tuesday. So that's when I go to the pub and that's when I do stuff.
I've been a fan of the 3-day weekend for a long time.
Yeah.
And not because I would take the time off. I work every day of the week. I work 7 days a week. Yeah. But actually, I think for society, right, the work-life balance is 5 to 2 is a bad ratio. And if we're creating robots and automation and all this sort of stuff, then what's it for? If not, to free up the amount of time we have to work as human beings.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, that's it's really fascinating. So something I've been fascinated by for ages is the way that economies are built on the idea of scarcity.
Yeah.
So we both do, we both do a job where essentially we sell our time and our expertise.
Yeah, knowledge.
So that's a finite thing. I've got X amount of hours in the day. Yeah. And in that time, I can impart, a certain amount of knowledge to people, and that therefore has value to it. And not everybody knows the things that we know, so there's scarcity there, and that therefore creates the value. So you apply that to something on the more macroscopic level, like food. Yeah, not everyone can go out and just grab vegetables out of the ground, or kill an elk or whatever and have meat. So there's scarcity in that sense to food. But as soon as we start to increase the amount of automation and we start to bring in technology and machines that create a superabundance of stuff, what do we actually then do? And the way that we work now and the economy and the way that we have it now globally can't function in a state of superabundance at all. Because if we said, well, look, there's enough food for everybody, and it's all made by these robots, you can click your fingers and it'll just, boop, like the Star Trek replicator will just make you your food out of dust, that it's cobbled together out of the air. Well, then there's no need to farm. And so there's no need to have a tractor. So there's no need to be a tractor repair person and all these things. And that's one of the things that's fascinated me with lockdown as well, is how much interconnection there is, which is sort of obvious, but it's great to say, oh, well, we're still in business, we can still do everything, but we have to have customers and they have to have customers.
And
they
so
have
on,
to be
doing something.
and so on and so forth. Yeah.
The online business and the online world is still dependent at some point to the offline world.
Absolutely. So all we're doing in the online world is we are pumping out product into the offline world, whether that's a digital product that still needs people to go and watch it, or be it shipping a box and saying, right, there's your physical product that you picked online. So so it's kind of an interesting one in that respect. But for us, as I say, we've been phenomenally busy supporting our clients and taking on new work as well for people who weren't doing things online before and now need to. Say our particular niche is doing complex stuff. So there's been some really interesting things have come out of that. But it's kind of strange because obviously it's always tinged by the fact that all these lovely things we talk about, oh great, the world caught up to me, is because horrendous things have happened as well. So it's kind of always a bit weird, isn't it? You kind of like, you can't kind of
for me it's been great. I haven't been affected by anyone medically who had a problem, other than I got to go shopping for my father and his girlfriend every weekend because they're shielding. But other than that, I haven't had actually anyone I haven't lost anyone or whatever. So obviously it's a completely different experience for people who have lost somebody.
That's it, and I think you have that sense of disconnection sometimes, don't you? Which is strange.
Yeah, that's the thing, because you're on your own and you don't see any of the effect of it. If you haven't had the effect of it, then ultimately, just my work life has got better.
Absolutely,
Everyone who I want to do stuff for is now online, whereas I was having to try and educate them to get online. So they've already done that.
They say, it's like necessity is the mother of invention, isn't it? And I think that's it. Things that were, people like you and I would be nudging you and saying, can we not just do this? I mean, nobody knew what a Zoom call was, did they? You say, well, can we do this? Can we not do this in Google Meet? It's like,
well, a bit like that coffee. A bit like that coffee. Now I just say to people, do you want a Zoom?
Yeah.
So Zoom has become the coffee now.
That's it. It's become just the verb to do it, and it's just okay, fine, and it's great because it cuts out so much. Traveling for me in particular, I hate long distance driving. I'm not good at repetitive, monotonous tasks. No. So keeping a car in a straight line for hours at a time is just, oh my word.
Well, on that, so I used to be a national, I used to be a national sales director, and I used to travel, and I used to love the driving, right? Yeah, I love driving. I don't like being a passenger, right? So if ever you got any customers you do have to go and see somewhere, let me know. I'll put the radio on and drive, and you could do your SEO or your notes or your reading or whatever in the passenger seat.
I just have a little sleep. Just have a little sleep. Oh, make me my personal Uber. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that, because I actually so I missed that about my national sales job.
Oh, never. I mean, I don't enjoy the driving, but it's also like the dead time that frustrates me. So I went into the office the other day. I went into the office to have a face-to-face meeting with someone. I thought, well, I'll do the whole day there. I may as well. As I was getting towards the end of the day, I was looking at things, I could. And it really struck me.
What did you say then? Because it froze for 2 seconds. You put,
sorry. I got into the office so I was in the office for the day, and I was getting towards the end of the day. I was sort of looking at what I had left on my to-do list and thinking, I could do that now, but it's going to take me 45 minutes to get home. And I really begrudged it. It really frustrated me that I was going to lose. I really felt like it was being stolen from me. Like, I'm going to lose this 45 minutes now that could have been productive.
And here's a strategy for you then. I love learning. I don't know if you do it too. You probably do, because I know you write a lot of books as well. So listen to some audiobooks in whatever time Yeah, I love listening and learning. So then it just becomes productive. Like, I quite enjoy.
Yes, yeah, I love TED. Yeah, I love doing TED talks on my phone in the car. The other thing that's if you hate driving, my other secret to driving is I like to put one of the talk radio stations, and then after a while I turn it off and argue in the car with myself with the opinion I've just.
So I used to do that. I used to listen to a lot of Talk Sport.
Yeah. And you can sort of sit and go, "That's ridiculous." You could feel like you're in the conversation. I do it with that. That's how much I love the sound of my own voice. I will talk to myself in the car on my own. I'm guaranteed a quality conversation that way. I like to think. But
I used to listen to Talk Sport for most of the way because I love sport and mostly talking sport all day. And then just before I got to the appointment, I stuck a bit of dance music on and put myself up.
Get yourself going.
But okay, obviously we've established you do SEO and other web services, etc. for B2B, B2C. What's your background, Chris? How did you end up going into that field and all the rest of that?
It's a bit of a funny one, actually, because I actually did the first sort of chunk of my career in the health service, so nothing related to business or commerce at all. But actually, it was one of the best places to learn, because you learn to do a hell of a lot with no money. With absolutely nothing. When you're software development can be very lazy because its hardware is so cheap and server space is so cheap that if something's not running as fast as as it could, it's very easy to go, oh, we'll just give it more memory then, instead of looking for the reason. Now, when I started out, that bit of memory, that's probably a 12 month. You're waiting for the budget to come around to get it. So you had to work clean and you had to work tight. But so I was there for about 8 years.
In the IT department?
So we were developing software for the A&E, for the wards, all sorts of stuff, and fascinating stuff to work on. But I used to say that one of the problems with working for the government is there was just too much politics involved. And you would just be blindsided on these projects by, oh, there's a new national strategy. You sort of go,
yes, it's the change for change's sake sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
And pivoting left and pivoting right constantly and never actually staying focused where you're going.
And a constant kind of in and out, sort of divesting control out and saying, right, individual hospital, do your thing, individual department, do your thing, and then going, oh, no, this is all too fragmented. We're going to pull it all back in, throw all that away. And so we were at the start of this huge national program. It's going to be huge and all this. And for us, for the trust we were working, it was a huge retrograde step. And they said, oh, look, we need you to take out all these systems now because they're going to conflict with this project. It's like, but these systems actually work. And you don't have a system yet. We can't really know. And I can remember one of the guys who'd been there a long time saying, just keep your head down for 4 or 5 years. It'll come back round. Yeah. And at that point in my life, I was like, that sounded like forever. I was like, 4 or 5 years? I was like, are you insane? I can't wait 4 or 5 years. I get annoyed waiting for a file to download. I'm going to wait 5 years just to start again. So I went and just looked for a job in the private sector, which I'd never had. And then I was fascinated to find that, oh, okay, so I can go from kind of this level back just doing normal software development, but my pay is going to be how much? It was marvelous. And I went and they gave me a brand new laptop. I couldn't believe my luck. Look at this, marvelous.
Spoiled.
So, I know we got whole departments on one of these. It's bad. But I joined a Sage reseller who had organised a really great project with a TV company for doing a mix of online sales, televisual sales, so talking to the camera, this China cat will change your life type stuff, touch tone phones when they were still a thing, 3 websites, and so we got quite a big team, and we spent ages working on that, and various people came and went, and several bloodless coups later, I was in charge. It was great, and so we did that. And we got to the end of it, and we sort of thought, well, we've learned so much now about how to sell online, how to sell offline. This is what we're good at. We should carry on. And so we just started building websites, and then
you smelt the market and realized everything you just gone through. There was lots of other companies going to want to be going through the same process.
Yeah, and I think we sort of identified or sort of spotted that complexity was something that I particularly enjoyed working with. I love fixing a complicated problem.
And not everyone does. And not
No, and
everyone does.
and the reality is that there are lots and lots and lots of really good digital agencies who will build your website and build your e-commerce website. There's also lots and lots and lots and lots of really bad agencies who will still build your website and do an e-commerce website. But as we started looking at the market, we realized there were lots and lots of customers who had got to a point where they said, well, our developers said our website can't do this, or that this can't be done. I was like, well, is there ever really a can't be done in terms of IT?
No, it's just I'm too busy to want to do it. I'm just
too busy, or I think
stuff.
It's too expensive, and that's it. And the thing is, there's plenty of that around. And I've said a few times in the past, if I were happy personally doing simple jobs, I'd probably have built 10 times more websites than I've built now. I'd probably be 10 times richer. It'd be marvelous, but I'd be very bored. I'd be crushingly bored, and I wouldn't be able to do it. So we found a niche for ourselves in going into picking up projects that were failing, or picking up businesses who got so far and they needed to take that next step.
Do you do any online coaching stuff, with online coaching platforms and stuff?
We haven't. No, we haven't.
That's something I'm working on myself. That's why I was just wondering if you. I'm using. Well, I'm thinking of choosing between one or the other of a WordPress plugin,
Okay.
Yeah, I think you can put your own written content in, some documents.
I see.
Videos. And then just have.
I've had a real turnaround in my view of WordPress recently, because I went through a long time. I had a real love-hate relationship with it for ages.
Yeah.
And I really, when I was first, you're going way back, first sort of building websites, I thought, this is marvelous. This is brilliant. I made plugins, there's all this stuff.
Well, you made your own plugins.
I made my own plugins. Yeah, there's still.
You're a coder then, yeah. You're a coder.
Oh yeah. I'm still hands-on now with a lot of the code, because that's that's the thing I really enjoy. Enjoy doing. So I still do a lot of that stuff.
Do you have a lot of code language in you? Do you know lots of them? Lots of the different languages?
I do know a fair few. I mean, I would say the same thing to people is there is a difference between like a developer and a programmer, depending on which way you want to talk about it. And you get a lot of people now who, they send you their CV somewhere, and they're absolutely wedded into a particular language or was a particular framework. I'm a React developer. And it's like, well, okay, that's a bit like saying I'm a carrot soup chef. It's like you can literally just do that. So if I want a carrot soup, I'm all right. Like, can you cook me a steak? No. And it's a very strange thing, I think, to get so focused in on that. And the best, the best developers I've ever worked with are pretty much sort of language agnostic. They don't mind the language too much, because really that's just syntax. Most of them look pretty much the same. So you should really, I think you should have experience in quite a diversity of these things. So you can look at a problem and go, right, the best way to solve this problem is this. And you reach into your toolbag and do that thing. People have only got one language. It's like only having a hammer in your bag, or only having a spanner. Now, I can put a nail in the wall with a spanner if I want to. It's not good for the nail or the spanner or the wall, but it will go in. But actually, I'd be a much better job if I got the hammer out, and then I use the hammer for that, and then I use something else for something else. So, yeah, I mean, I've worked across like the Microsoft stack. I do mostly open source stuff now. But yeah, you should never be afraid of taking on a new language.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because I'm a software user, so I just plug and play, if you like, pull stuff around. Yeah. It's annoying for me because I have lots of ideas, creativity. I used to sell high-end IT solutions. Yeah. 10 million plus turnover businesses, and I see the solution. Yeah. But obviously, I've got to wait for someone to build the thing.
To build it. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of these. There's a growing market for what they call these codeless platforms now that you might enjoy having a look at. So Amazon have just released one where you can build, basic applications out of building blocks and sort of stitch them together. And they're very popular, particularly for sort of business automation and business integration, which are two things where you can save a huge amount of money in a business. I mean, one of the things that we always insist on for e-commerce is, we're going to get the stock and the pricing out of the back offices, and we're going to integrate the orders back in, because there are still a huge number of businesses who are, every day somebody gets a spreadsheet and they upload it, or they get a spreadsheet and they type it in, You know, they go, oh, I've got to go and update the prices on the website now. Why?
Yeah, same. Same as with
why aren't those things connected? You know.
Yeah, the same as so. That was actually, I used to have an online e-commerce business, and in order to sell my product in Debenhams online, which is we had a deal lined up to do.
Yeah.
We needed the stock ordering system. We needed the website that was selling the place selling the product to be linked to our stock system, so that it stopped selling if you run out of stock. Yeah. And that was going to be we were quoted at the time £2,000 to have that development. And we were about to get it done when me and my ex-wife split up, and so that deal didn't go anywhere with Debenhams. And that would have turned our business probably from, we were doing it for 4 years, and we were selling, 20, 30, 40 pairs of shoes a year. That probably would have times 10'd it.
Absolutely.
And then if it sells well on the Debenhams UK site, it goes on all the other, the .es and the .frs. So it could have gone massive, but we just needed one of those systems. But yeah, I actually myself have come across lots of websites where literally they'll change the delivery mechanism or the order price, and they've got to go in and change everything manually.
And they've got to go in and do it, So I mean, so those two things. So codeless platform's quite interesting for that. I mean, generally speaking, I would expect, for me as a developer, if it would take me a day on a codeless platform, I probably should be able to do it in an hour, if I were just doing it, because it's, I'm working with a smaller Lego brick, if you like, and I'm not having to work around things. But one of the things I think is what's really kind of, I think, sort of turned me around emotionally on WordPress. The issue I had with it is it's very often, and this isn't unique to WordPress, but it's that type of platform where it is very much plug and play. There are far too many instances where it gets deployed for somebody and then there's no maintenance done. Nobody patches it. Nobody keeps the plugins up to date. And it's just sort of abandoned.
That's where mine's good, Lucy, because I got a tech team, because I'm not tech. I'm an SEO person and stuff, but I've learned how to build websites and plug and play and all that. But my tech team set up the template, they link it to the domain, and then they update all the plugins. I charge a service for that.
That's the thing. Yeah, and that's what everyone should be doing. But it's bizarrely, people seem to think, I don't know, maybe it's too much hard work, they can't be bothered, or they just want to get on to the next thing.
They don't know that you have to update it a lot of the time. So many people got websites that they don't actually look at, they don't go in. Whereas I go in mine and look at the plugins and,
I mean, all developers hate legacy code, or we all do, I've had people in interviews say like, am I working on, is it greenfield or have I got to work on legacy code? And as soon as you say, you've got to work on legacy code, you may as well have said, and also you're going to be in Slytherin, because they're just like, the tie comes off, they're looking for
that's the same as like, when taking over websites. Web designers don't like to take over websites of other people's websites.
No, and I see it, and we say the same thing. We say, look, if we take this on, we don't know what's been done before, and it's like a house. Yeah. So I have a house. I'm in it now. When we bought this house, what it said on the paper and what the surveyor said was there, and what we actually found afterwards have been nothing alike. Absolutely nothing alike. It's a bit like, it's like that. You remember that film, The Money Pit, with Tom Hanks, where everything keeps going wrong in the house? It's like that, but the house is worse, and I'm no good at DIY. It's every time we go to do something, we find some new hidden horror, and I think that's quite a legitimate fear for anyone taking on a website as well. I don't know that you didn't go into the code of that plugin and change it. So if I just update it, am I going to lose that stuff that you've already done? Will I be able to find that stuff you've already done? And there's so many different ways to skin a cat, so many different ways to do something. It can be quite hard, to take those on. So I understand logic. People say, look,
I don't mind taking them on. I won't mind taking them on, but I would always say, but if something major happens that was unforeseen. So just like if you're buying a house, somebody sells you the house, but you say, well, listen, I don't know what the wiring's like in the walls.
It's almost going to be sort of sold as seen, and that's quite a difficult sell, then, isn't it? Say, well, look, I'll take it on. I'm going to charge you this much, but honestly, if anything goes wrong, I probably can't help you anyway. Sort of a very weird sort of pitch. But I've been fascinated by these antitrust hearings that have been going on in the States, and particularly Amazon, who this is their first time out. It's their first time being in the antitrust. They're normally the ones trying to get other people into trouble, moaning about Apple or moaning about Microsoft. Microsoft weren't in it this time round. They're very annoyed by that. You can tell, because they've suddenly baked Internet Explorer back into Windows, and they're trying to buy TikTok. They're desperate to be back in the antitrust gang. You know, they don't want to be left out. It's
No,
like,
because obviously they're not growing big enough, or they're not a big enough concern if they're not in it.
I think the main thing, I would say so. Yeah, almost. It's a bit like, you know, in Batman, where someone's about to kill Batman, the Joker turns and goes, no, you know, I'm not going to try and do my Joker, which is terrible. You know, no one can kill Batman except me. I'm the biggest bad guy in town. You know, it's almost like Microsoft feel annoyed about it. But I mean, there's been this kind of long-running conspiracy theory, open secret, whatever you want to call it, that Amazon are, you know, dipping into seller data, looking at what products sell well, and then they're going and getting the same thing. And I've got clients who are 100% convinced that that's happened to them.
Yeah, that's the same as like Google. Like when you have a look at Google, if you search for certain things, Google now have a front end to the certain thing. It looks at what's popular, and it says, "Right, I'm going to nick that traffic off my customers."
Oh, absolutely.
Does it all the time? It's skanking.
You know, I mean, what they've done with, the States, where you could book hotels. You know, they took a massive chunk out of Booking.com straight away with that. They, you know, anywhere that these super platforms see an opportunity where they are effectively giving money to someone else, they will try and close it out. And some of the stuff in the antitrust that came out, you know, the amount of money that Amazon were prepared to lose effectively to force diapers.com into a situation where they had to sell to them is incredible, you know. But it was really fascinating. It's almost sort of been lost in the noise, but one of the things that came out was Amazon was specifically asked, you know, could they guarantee that no one had ever used this seller data to inform their buying decisions? And of course, they had to say they couldn't guarantee it had never happened, which is as close to an admission as you're going to get. But and this, in a long-winded way, is why I've come sort of back around on my opinion of some of the bigger open source CMSs, because I think as much as when we, you know, if we're taking on a job and we go, right, what did you do? I set my own WordPress site up and I've done this, and now nothing's working. You're going to go, right, okay, you know, I wish you'd have called me 6 weeks ago. I wish you'd called me 6 months ago. I still think that is in some ways preferable to what I think the long-term outcome will be for these businesses who are going all in on platforms like Amazon and Facebook and Shopify, who clearly have a long-term view to own that marketplace. Because they are never, ever your customer in that space.
No, that's it. The data and the customer owns them. And ultimately, at any time, they can just squeeze you out of the picture.
They can just take it away. It away. You know, if I buy something on Amazon, I am Amazon's customer first and foremost. If I buy something on Facebook, I'm that Facebook user first and foremost.
That's the reason why I use all social media platforms, for exactly the same reason, because your content is never yours. If it's just... If all you got is something on one platform, if they decide to just shut you down one day, you're done.
Well, you know? It's like what's happening with TikTok now, you know, and you've got people who've got an entire business being a TikTok influencer because there was a space and they've gone into it, and they don't have a presence on Instagram, or they don't have a presence on YouTube. And now they're like, oh, what will happen?
Yeah, because like America are on about maybe blocking them out, isn't they? They can be blocked out of America.
Who knows what they'll do next? You know, I mean, it's crazy what's happening there. But I think, generally my kind of like Chris's law of platforms is basically, if you're on a platform and you're making money, expect the platform to come after that money at some point in time.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you do.
My rule of law and of business is always to spread the risk.
Absolutely.
Put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And if anyone does a SWOT analysis in their business and all of their revenue comes from one place, and that one place they have no control over whatsoever, then that's worrying.
That's it. And it's no different, I think, to having one customer. I think that's the way you have to see it.
Yes.
The customers aren't yours. Amazon's your customer. So as long as you continue to please them, you've got a business. But if they find something they like better, you are out. You're gone, and that's the end of it. So for me, particularly when we're creating content and making videos and podcasts and everything else, you want them to be present on all those channels. But ultimately, that one place that you own should be like the de facto one, and there should be stuff there that you can't get anywhere else, in my view.
So I used to do a lot of blogging.
Channels.
I used to do a lot of blogging, and now I do a lot of blogging, but they're all on my own sites rather than on the blog domains and stuff. Because again, I've had some burns and whatever, It's the reason why I spread the risk, because...
Well, things also got a fashion, don't they? Yeah. Facebook's demographic
like
is
MySpace.
getting older and older. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I looked at I'm not a massive TikTok person because I'm too old, to be frank, for a lot of the content that's on there. But you have a look at it, and when I first started looking, I was like, right, this is exactly the same stuff people were doing on YouTube when it first came out. But the demographic...
It's the freer stuff. It's the freer, unrestricted stuff that gets restricted over time. And
it's like the little pranks and the games and things they do that are going viral on TikTok. Like, this was on YouTube 10 years ago. But the difference is, it's like Spider-Man. We keep getting a new Spider-Man every couple of years.
Yeah, he's younger every time.
But because kids get older.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kids get older. So I've been through like 3 Spider-Men in my life so far. Because every couple of years, the target market for Spider-Man is a particular.
It was the same as James Bond, isn't it? It's the same as James Bond.
Yeah, they rotate James Bond over. He becomes time.
He gets too old. He has to stay at a certain age to do what he does.
It. Yeah,
to work like that.
And that's exactly that. And so they reboot and relaunch every time. And social networks are exactly the same. They've got a lifespan.
Yeah, because what happens as well is with socials is that the kids never want to be where the parents are. So as the people start getting older, they have to jump to a new one. So it'll always happen. It's the same as bars. It's the same as bars. Trendy. The youngsters don't want to be where the older people are. So it's
that's it. It's like there are certain pubs like, that's an old man's pub. It's like, is it? Is it? That was the place to be when I was a kid.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The people, it was the place to be 20 years ago, and has grown into the old man's pub.
Old man's pub. Yeah,
20 years time.
And there's still some, still some old guys in there who think they are absolutely on the cutting edge of everything. They're like, they'll come back. They'll come back. I mean, I think it's interesting in that. I think that's absolutely the life cycle. It's interesting to see how now, because this has never happened before, really. How different networks are trying to kind of hyperextend their life cycle now through acquisition and through buying things and through attracting young.
Because it wasn't that long ago before TikTok come along. Really, that Instagram was the place for the youngsters.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like a half, and it keeps getting shorter.
Yeah,
shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And you really do, I think, have to have that right combination of you have to have a sufficiently unserviced demographic. And you have to have some, a new twist on it that's slightly different or slightly better. Yeah. So now they're doing these. It's reels now, isn't it? They're calling them on. But I mean, there was Vine in the middle. Vine is almost identical to what TikTok was.
Yeah, well, it was a cross between Twitter and TikTok, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was and I think the main problem with Vine was just one of timing.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Or just sometimes, because TikTok, there wasn't no space in TikTok in the Western world. TikTok grew because it was so big in the Eastern world.
Yes.
And then just transferred over.
And then just
it wasn't really, had it started in the West and didn't have the following of the East, I don't think it would have necessarily made it as big.
Maybe not. No, maybe not. Maybe not.
Because really, it's a combination of Instagram and YouTube, isn't it, really?
It is really, it's just short videos. And all the videos tend to be vertical, which I think is probably one of the clever things they've done, which again, Vine did, which is, so well, actually, I hold my phone like this, not like this.
Yeah.
So, to try and do it like that, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of a TikTok strategy I have, which is I've actually been watching it recently. I never watched it at all until the last couple of weeks, I suppose.
You've got to learn a couple of you got to learn some of the dances, haven't you, Lane? Sort of.
I'm not bothered by the dance, which is why I'm finding it hard to come up with the content marketing strategies. I'm not dancing on there. But I quite like, because I'm into adrenaline stuff, I quite like the parkour stuff and the gymnastics stuff and all that. Yeah. I like that sort of, I'm a high action, high impact sort of thing. Yeah. So that's what I enjoy on it. And once you start, like everything else, once you start liking stuff and engaging with it, you get lots more of it.
Yes. Yeah. So, there are lots of magicians on there, which I think is good. I love sort of close-up magic. And
I quite like that. Yeah, Dynamo's on there. Dynamo's on there. Yeah. And also, I don't mind like Ashley Banjo and that sort of dancing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's a bit perverted watching 16-year-olds and 12-year-olds and whatever, doing their dancing and stuff.
Yeah. The research is difficult. Where you're like, no, I'm working. No, honestly, this is my job.
And they're very, there's a lot of young girls on there being provoked.
There's a lot of content on there. Yeah. I mean, I was surprised Microsoft went for it. That was one of the reasons I was quite surprised they went for it, because they're very kind of corporate, very corporate blue. If you look at what they've done with LinkedIn, which is barely anything.
Yeah.
I'm sort of quite surprised they've done it, but at the same time, is it a no-brainer deal? Because no one else, there's no way that they're going to let Facebook buy it. There's no way Amazon are going to be allowed to buy it. There's no way Apple are going to be allowed to buy it. There's no way Twitter are going to be allowed to buy it. So who's left with deep enough pockets who doesn't have one already?
Yeah, exactly.
So they can smell a deal there for
I actually
sure.
think so it's funny you mentioned LinkedIn, because I love LinkedIn, right? But I think I've got a better LinkedIn in my head than LinkedIn.
Okay, go on then.
Yeah.
Pitch me your LinkedIn.
So basically, right, one of the downsides of LinkedIn. So I actually, when I was working for a credit reference agency, I used to sell business data in XML transfer or bulk data delivery. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one flaw in LinkedIn's plan is that anyone can create anything and say it's legit. There's no official connection. Yeah. So actually, so I can, because I understand business data, and company's house and all the rest of that. Obviously, from the UK perspective, you have to try and collaborate with the company's house conglomerate or whatever of the world, this global platform. Yeah. But if you can get real authenticated information into the system, then that's better already, right?
Yeah.
Plus also, like with things like directors databases and other companies and stuff, you could have connections. You could have a better connection system through it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you also could, so I actually personally, as somebody who used to sell credit checking information, I don't know if I should say this on my recorded podcast or not, because someone might hear it and got the idea. But not everyone knows.
Well, that's it. You've got it out there now. This will be the recording that they play in court.
But I think I could turn that platform into multi-purpose and not just LinkedIn, but as a vehicle for other things.
Yes.
Which I could do with data.
There is I think you've definitely hit on what I think is one of the biggest issues with LinkedIn, which is the lack of authenticity to certain things and the amount of nonsense that's on there. And I really hate these kind of LinkedIn trends that happen where everyone starts to do things the same. It's like at the moment, everybody seems to write their posts really long, but one sentence at a time. Because we've forgotten how paragraphs work. So I haven't forgotten how paragraphs work. I know what they're for. I can even use a semicolon at a push. It drives me mad. But the
problem is in marketing terms, they tell people about these things because it's like with blogging. Yeah, they say don't do 500 words or 1,000 because people can't read that. So they say to 300 or 100.
300,
But actually, what's wrong? I can read 500 to 1,000, and so all the people who can read words are being affected.
I think it's like
by
a lot of these
things
things.
Doesn't.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of these things. The message gets diluted down until it loses all meaning. It's like if you sit there and you say sausage dog 100 times. By the time you finish, you can't even see a sausage dog in your head. It's just a noise that you make.
Dog.
Yeah, it's just a sound you make with your mouth. So I think these things become rules. People sort of they lock into these things.
That's the thing as well. That people like to be led, so they listen to it as instruction. When it's only guide.
And so people see other things, and people see other things, and they emulate it. One of my particular favourites, it seems to have gone away now, but there was a trend for these sort of very, very worthy stories that people would put on LinkedIn, which I always suspected were just were not true of a lot of people, because I used to look at it and go, nobody is that good in real life. And I do think I would love there to be a sort of an anonymous "this is a lie" button that you could click on LinkedIn. We could go, I don't believe this.
A BS button.
One of my most successful LinkedIn posts ever was where I stole the opening lines of one of these things. It was something along the lines of like, my number one salesperson came to you with a problem, and rather than hit them with KPIs, I decided to listen. ... But then I went into this real surreal thing about it. It turned out my number one salesperson was actually two foxes stood one on top of the other in a long coat, like in a cartoon, and how it kind of explained why the bins were always getting kicked over and I felt like the fool, and how I decided to support them in their choice to be two foxes. And I just so many likes. I like to think I single-handedly killed that trend at that point, because I never saw one ever again after that. But I think you're absolutely right. I think it's people want advice in a soundbite, and so you end up essentially saying, the best advice a lot of time is it depends. It depends, on what you're trying to achieve. Personally, I like a nice, long, in-depth, blog post, but something that actually explains things and takes me through. And yes, you need to have headings in there, and pull quotes are nice to keep the flow together. And no one's saying that if it's 1,000 words, it's got to be one massive paragraph. There are plenty of ways to make text flow and have pace and rhythm and meaning and be engaging without going down to do everything as one sentence like bullet points.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've come across them, but there are these things called books. They've been quite big for a while, and they're just words, and they just go on.
Stop,
They just go on for ages. Some of them have got thousands in.
I always take these rules with a pinch of salt. So, like, for example, people who say you can only put 1 or 2 or 3 hashtags on a post or whatever. I'm like, well, I don't want to put 10 hashtags on because it's to do with 10 different subject matter.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick my 10 on, you know what I mean? Because, I'm not going to post it 10 times with 1 hashtag on. So
it's like cooking. So don't add. This is your recipe, and if everyone follows the recipe, then everyone gets more or less the same outcome. But you're not taking into account the audience that you're dealing with and what they want.
Yeah.
Some people want to read Lord of the Rings, which is thick enough you could beat someone to death with it.
Yeah.
Other people don't want. Other people want to read a magazine. Other people just want to read a tweet. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the way I always try to deal with content now. Is I make the big thing, which is the one that I actually like, and then you can kind of cut it down,
sub it, And because I'm B2B, the way I always look at it is a lot of these trends actually are consumer focused, because consumers a lot of the trends is because consumers are bombarded with content, they haven't got the time, blah 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 blah. Whereas I'm always B2B anyway, so I always take the objective view that actually they're business people. A lot of them have got degrees, they can read. Yeah, and they're going to take a bit of information in before they make their decision, rather than.
I think it's a sort of a different process. There are certain things where it's a different decision making process. Yeah. Trying to get me to buy a Big Mac is very different to trying to get me to buy an IT system.
Yeah.
So you can't take the rules.
There's more people involved in the one process than the other.
Yeah, and also if you buy a Big Mac and it's not great, you're not getting sacked.
No.
Whereas if you spend £50,000 on an IT system and it's a total failure, you might be out the door after that. So it's a very different process. And it's certain thing at the end of the day, people are people, and they will respond to certain things. And there are certain truisms that will work. But ultimately, if people are buying for their business and spending large amounts of money with the same amount of attention to detail that they apply to, shall I have the bigger fries? That is not a great place for anyone to be. And you almost it does worry me. And it always worries me if a deal is very, very fast.
Yeah.
People are sometimes, because what we do is quite complex, proposals with us, they can be 50, 60 pages, plus diagrams, plus design stuff. It's a huge amount of stuff to go through. People often they're a bit apologetic. We're really sorry it's taking us so long to get back to you, but you've given us all this detail, and so we have to go through it. I always say the same thing, which is I would rather you took 4 weeks to decide, and you made the right decision and you understood your decision, than you said yes and you hadn't read through all that detail, because there's stuff that really matters, stuff that really matters in there. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things with doing SEO and business consultancy and the web is these are often the very first things that people see in terms of a business.
Yeah.
So it's as important as, is your front door on straight, and is your window dressing good? Have you got a nice sign up? It's that first impression will really make a difference. Yeah. So often. So it is important that you get those bits, as correct as they can possibly be in a world of infinite variety and variables and requirements. But yes, I do think, there's obviously a huge market for, I can fix all your business problems in this one soundbite. And more often than not, the nuance has been lost. Yeah. It's actually one of the things that Jeff Bezos said during the antitrust I thought was brilliant. And he said social media is a nuance removing machine, because everything has to be pared down into a tweet or into one little paragraph on LinkedIn, and it doesn't allow you to say on one hand this, on the other hand that. Here's my balanced conclusion. You've got to race straight to this is good or this is bad, and the world is not like that. In my limited experience of it, in my one room that I never leave, the world is not like that. I'm a solutions provider
and a detail person as well. I was quite quick to the jump before they upped it to 280 from 140. I was quite quick to the jump to work out how I could say 1,000 words in one tweet when it was capped at 140. And that was just with text overlay on image.
Yeah.
So I bypassed that problem really quickly on Twitter.
Humans are infinitely resourceful. They'll always find a way.
That's why I say to people, like, don't worry about what you need to say on Twitter, like fit it in the box, just put it on an image, say what you want to, attach the image.
I have an almost boundless faith in the kind of brutal brilliance of the human to just succeed and to survive and thrive in stuff. And in many ways, I think if you've got that view of people that were actually, if you have a look at like the specification of a human being, terrifying. It's a big like thing in sci-fi stories, isn't it? It's like, oh, he was as strong as a bear, or he was this, he was that. Yeah. Overall, if you look at humans, we're like in the top 5 for nearly everything. All right, a dog's got a better sense of smell than me, but he can't open the door on his own, can he? No. We are, if you look at like the specification of a human, we're totally terrifying what we're capable of.
I do a lot of personal development, and what a lot of the personal development sectors is so many people are just using so little of themselves and what they're capable of. Yeah. And that's the thing that I'm
humans are just amazing
upset about. Like, we can do so much, but most people don't learn after leaving school.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. But I think it makes me quite hopeful, I think, about a lot of things in the future, because I think, well, there are, to date, we've always fixed it. We've always found a way around it. We've always resolved, whatever.
Well, that's why lockdown wasn't much of a concern for me, because I just thought we'll have a vaccine in a year. There's too much money in the world for it not to be created.
Well, you can always rely on human greed, I think. Yeah. This is a fascinating thing. It's one of the, I can't remember where I read it, and I wish I could find it again, because I refer to it all the time, but it was a psychological study about how different people experience different emotions at different levels. So my 100% happiness might not be your 100% happiness. No. You might never achieve the level of euphoric joy that I do, when a new season of Doctor Who starts or something. Or it might be the other way around. I'm not massively into sports, so I've never really had that kind of, boundless
2005 Wales Grand Slam win.
Yeah, so for you, like, poof, off the scale.
Just off the scale, just
for me,
greatest day ever.
It just meant the traffic was really bad.
Yeah, it was just busy and everyone was banging their horns.
But that's it. Yeah, it's like, I'm constantly going, am I in the wrong lane? But everyone experiences different things to different degrees. Some people will never, plumb the depths of sadness and depression that other people will. But what they found was universally strong for nearly everybody was envy.
Yeah. Okay.
And you sort of think of this, and you think, well, actually, yes. Why is that a super useful experience? It's because that's how we get better at stuff. Got a nice.
It's probably because when people have got food and you haven't, you get hungry and you get envious, don't you?
That's it.
Like, what can I do about it to get some food?
That's how evolution works. You've got a nicer cave than me, right? So I need to knock you over the back of the head with a stick. Yeah, have your cave. Have your cave. Then I'm going to be warmer. I can have more little kids. Then. Oh, hang on a minute. Right, Dave down the road. He's actually got a better stick than me. Right, better push him off a cliff and get that stick then. And it's a super useful, and it's awful, it's an awful thing.
It's an evolutionary trait.
But it is an evolutionary trait. And I think that's what a lot of social media plumbs into, because suddenly we've gamified everything.
Everyone sees everyone else's lives, and not just their lives, their best version of their lives.
Yeah, they see the role-playing game that is their life. They see the head and shoulders bit. They don't see the duck going mental underneath. But I think that it's tapped into something very, very fundamental, I think, to how humans work. But you're absolutely right. Global warming, right? That needs sorting out. And that whoever comes up with the machine that sucks the atmosphere in and cleans it up.
I think whoever come up with coronavirus already created it.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's gone deep. That's a deep cut, even for a conspiracy lover like me. Is it man-made? Is it man-made?
Well, it was made in China, so what do you reckon?
Yeah, well,
if somebody was going to create it, it would be China to attack the West.
In fairness, pretty much everything else gets made there, I suppose. So
everything gets made in China. So
maybe.
And have you listened to the conspiracy theories about where it was found in that marketplace? Yeah.
Yes.
It's not far from Beijing, and Beijing's the least affected city on the planet.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, there's loads. There's the 5G. Does 5G?
Oh yeah, I don't believe that's all nonsense.
Give you COVID. You know, it's like, really. You know, I tell you what, that's probably the most scary one, because I think the majority of the population look at it and go, coronavirus.
Yeah,
faster
they believe
internet.
that.
You know, faster internet, coronavirus, but a small price to pay. Whack the 5G on. You know, we're awful. We're all terrible people. But yeah, I mean, I think they are. That's what gives me that, you know, boundless faith in human ingenuity to find. So I think you're right. You know, I think they will. Well, Russia are saying they've got a vaccine now, but no one knows if it works or not, because they haven't. You know, they're not. They don't want to share information on that. But yeah, maybe that works. You know, maybe it doesn't. But you know, it's incredible. You know, because it's such a fast pace compared to, you know, when you look at the science, the pace at which they've got to where they are now, compared to other, you know, other things where they would say, look, it takes 5 years to make a vaccine. So, well, we don't have, you know, you can't do it. You've got
that's
one.
Just though, you know, normally you're developing something for a niche. This is developing something for the whole planet. The whole.
It's also, it's like scientists
like,
are suddenly like the A-team. You know, when they get locked in, you know, they've been locked in the shed, and they're like, oh, the baddies are coming in 20 minutes. BA, what can you do? And he's like, oh, it's all right, I'm going to make a tank now out of 2 oil drums and a cabbage.
Well, that's what some of these tests are. They're other tests repurposed and stuff, aren't they? Like, you know.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Repurposing things. Like,
that's my other tip: is to never lock Mr. T anywhere with a set of oxyacetylene. Don't take the welding gear. Yeah,
some cabbages, because he's going to.
There is one where they make a cabbage gun. I swear, I used to live for that.
There was one where they made a tank out of like a couple of bits and pieces in a garage.
Yeah. But it's like, oh, we're going to lock these guys in here, and it's like, by reputation alone, take the tools back out. Don't leave them with, like, you know, the welding machine, all the metal. That's, you know, I'll have that drill. You know, see how fast you are now, BA.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
but I think something that sends the conversation back round as well is what we were talking about this new norm or where it settles, etc. I actually personally think that we're going to go into a deep recession, but we're going to have a growth period which we wouldn't have had beforehand, because of we've been plateauing since the global recession. But I think all this technology and all the innovation and all that is actually going to rocket it once we get back to just settled, if you like. Yeah, I think there's going to be a boost period of everyone selling a lot more stuff globally.
I can definitely see that happening. I think there's obviously there's uncertainty in the marketplace at the moment, because we don't know. You know, will there be a second wave? Will there not? Will there be a vaccine? Will there not? And it does feel like there's a vast amount of pent up demand, and when that floodgate opens in terms of, right, we've figured out this, or we figured out that.
We've got a vaccine. Once the vaccine comes,
we've got a treatment, or, you know, we've reached this point, or it just, you know, it burns out as other things have in the past. That demand is will be released into the marketplace, and there will not only be all the things that people would have wanted to do before, but all new things that will become possible. So there's an increasing number of theatres, for example, that have been selling tickets to watch live theatre online, which is fantastic. Let it carry on. Let people watch live theatre from home, because actually we've had a big problem in the television advertising world for ages. It's been going down and down and down because there's no appointment viewing. You know, sport has been the only appointment viewing left. That's why there's so many reality shows, because you want to see who's getting kicked off the island or kicked out of the jungle before Twitter tells you. Most other stuff people record and watch at a time that suits them, or they're watching on Netflix, they're watching on Amazon, and it's whenever they want to watch it. So it's becoming
that conversation's gone now, because different people are having the same conversation at different times.
That's it. But it's also harder to say, right, we know that, you know, right, we're putting, you know, I don't know, we're going to put, you know, we're putting Coronation Street on, and we know the demographic for that. So we're going to show these adverts.
So we're going to buy some gas cylinders for your fire at 8 o'clock at night when the old people are getting cold.
That's exactly it. So having more live performance brings back that opportunity to say, well, okay, you know, who is going to buy tickets to watch Hamlet live? What's that demographic? And what are we going to advertise to them in the interval? I've got a friend who works in advertising. He says all adverts are now tested at like 24 to 30 times speed, because that's what they're watched at.
Okay.
You hit the adverts, you fast forward, which is why logos are on the screen for so long now. If you watch an advert at like 24 times speed, you will still get
times 30, isn't it? Times 30 Sky. I fast forward all the adverts on times 30 Sky.
But if you watch it, you'll still have seen every logo. That's why the logo hangs around.
I tell you what I do sometimes. I do stop it sometimes. Like when you catch you see a drama or something that you want to watch, and you stop and rewind it back and go, "Oh, that looks good." So something in that quick imagery
has been enough.
It's enough to catch you and think, "Oh, I want to." Well, that looks good. What's that? Let's put that in the series link.
Yeah. So I think there would be that boost will come, as you say, from new things that we're able to do. Restaurants who were never doing takeaway before, will they carry on doing takeaway?
I think there's definitely loads of them that's going to carry on the takeaway.
Service a new market in that respect.
Yeah.
I think also people have tried things that they maybe wouldn't have done before. They've gone out into the countryside and done things that they wouldn't have done before. I also think it's got potential to be a big economic leveler. So like we've got quite a lot of clients in London, and whenever the process of getting a new client in London has always included the step of having to explain why our day rates are lower than London day rates. I say, well, it's because everything is cheaper. Everything's cheaper where I live. It used to be everything's cheaper where I live except carrier bags, but now everyone has to pay for carrier bags, so it's leveled out. But
I never thought about that. The economic effect of the whole world, if you like, the money would be, rather than it all being spent in London every day and these big cities, it's actually being spent online and spread around geographically a bit more.
If we continue in a situation where face-to-face meetings carry additional risk, and maybe people don't want to do them, then there is no difference in using somebody in Cardiff or Manchester or Leeds or Aberdeen to using somebody in London. There's no geographic benefit. So this whole sort of concept that we've had for ages, we're trying to get money out of London, into other parts of the country.
It works, sort of thing. It works.
It could be massively, improved. And equally, people who are currently commuting to London from other places no longer have to do that. But it means that disposable income then stays in other places.
So some of these cities which were losing businesses anyway can lose them, but the locality, close to people in their house where they want to nip out and get their phone SIM card, or go shopping or whatever, they might grow again. Those little local shopping places they used to have.
Yeah, I mean, this might be one of the things that happens to city centres and high streets as well. If we have a decrease in the amount of office space that's wanted. Given that, if you look back in history, the office was created as somewhere to keep the administrators of people in factories. That's why we have them. That's what they were made for. These tower blocks full of office space are ideal to turn into flats.
Yeah.
So people then start to live in them, and then they want certain services on their doorstep: phone shops, convenience stores, all that sort of stuff. So we have it in Cardiff, don't we? The top of St David's 2 is residential.
They started doing it a lot in town. There's quite a lot more residents gone into Cardiff town centre in the last 10 years than there was ever there before. So this trend was already happening. This is why I'm saying
so it's just jumped us forward.
We've now got to would have happened anyway over the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
It was just a massive booster to
that's it. So we've had this sort of quantum leap forward, which unfortunately accelerated progress like that has benefits and negatives. And it's quite a hard thing to say, but you have to sort of look at it and say, well, okay, do these things have some sort of God-given right to exist, or do they just do they have to go the way of all things, and we evolve past them?
It's a tough one because it's like with Amazon, isn't it? Amazon are now giving money into startups and SMEs and stuff and to businesses, and they're putting some money into businesses. They just knocked out a load of businesses. It's a bit of a funny thing. I think businesses there, but now they're starting a whole load of new businesses.
Well, yes. I mean, sort of the cynic in me would say that they're trying to have fingers in all of those pies, because what will be the next disruptor? There's no business that's beyond being disrupted.
Yeah.
There's no business at all that's beyond being disrupted. Whether that is a commercial disruption, so someone comes into Amazon space who does it better, or whether it's a backlash against that business. People say, well, no, we don't want this one kind of,
it's all in one place or whatever.
Yeah, this just all encompassing, beast that, from whom you can buy everything. you know, again, it's a classic kind of dystopian sci-fi trope, isn't it? Like the mega corporation that does everything.
Well, you'll get split up at some point by the government, who will say, okay, you've got to split it up into Amazon, you know, retail, Amazon, electronics, Amazon.
Undoubtedly,
you know?
yeah, it will have to be. And I think you can see it if Facebook are terrified of this internally, is my belief, because they're constantly stitching the systems together. So you used to have Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram separate, and they're constantly pushing to, we're updating this. This is going to share this infrastructure. This is going to share that infrastructure. So when that day comes, and somebody says that is it, you know,
like, oh, we can't do everything stuck together.
No, we can't. They go, well, it's going to take us 10 years. It's going to take us 10 years. You can't just make it. You know, yes, you can make us do it, but it's going to take 10 years. By which point, you know, it's all been forgotten, hasn't it? You know, it's
another government's gone in charge, and we managed to buy that was in our pocket.
Well, that's it. Yeah, or just the technology has changed and the world has moved on. You know, Elon Musk wants to put chips in everybody's head at the moment. You know, that's his.
Is that his thing? Is it?
That's his pet project. Yeah, they've been massively recruiting in that space.
Is that instead of Google Glasses?
Well, yeah, well, because Google bought somebody the other day, didn't they? I think they're called North. I think they were called, but they make a set of smart glasses. Because they again, Google Glass, I think, is probably a technology that was just before its time, and now we're much less worried, rightly or wrongly, probably wrongly, but we're much less worried about cameras being everywhere and privacy being everywhere.
Yeah, well, before everyone was commuting, and it was dangerous to have glasses on whilst looking at other stuff, you know, because it's bad enough when people are holding their phones, you know, but there's a gap between the phone and themselves, and there's no with glasses. But now everyone's at home, the Google Glasses would be fine.
Yeah. Well, actually, they'd be a hugely freeing thing, wouldn't they? Because instead of being in this same room all the time,
you could walk around and have a chat on the.
You could sit downstairs. You could make your lunch and still, you know, see your email and whatnot.
That's why sometimes I go on Zoom calls, networking events on my phone and on a laptop.
Yeah,
for exactly that reason. So I can cook while I'm listening to the other people pitching at the networking event or whatever.
Yeah. Then do it a lot. There's your TikTok. Cook and learn.
Yeah.
Cooking the books. That's what you could call it. There you go.
Cooking the books.
Cooking the books. Like there you go. Done.
I like it. Right. I could spend all day talking to you. I think because we could both cover.
Because I won't. It's because I don't shut up.
Yeah, and me too. But
I've been on my own for hours. You know, there's a lot of pent up demand here.
But it's been great to have you on. But I'm conscious we've both got other things to be doing. So
I should probably do some of that work I keep talking about, really, shouldn't I?
Yeah, definitely. But you know, we've only just taken up a commute one way or the other. So
that's it. That's
all we've taken up. So that's fine. But how do people get in touch with you, Chris? And also tell people about your books or plug anything you want to plug.
So the easiest way to get in touch with me for anything professional is on our website, which is www.gravit.co.uk. And Gravit has got a funny spelling. It's Gravit-E.
It's an IT spelling.
It's an IT spelling. Always have a domain you've got to spell. Everyone's had to listen to that now. It's gone right in. But if you're more interested in just the SEO book, I have also got a website, which is thetruthaboutseo.co.uk. And you can get the book for free there. For the most recent version, you can
not for free, in exchange of an email address.
Well, yes, yeah, you got that. But if you really want one for absolutely nothing, then email Mike, and he can tell me how many he needs, and I'll send him some PDFs, and that's fine too. But you can actually read the vast majority of the content just on the website anyway. You can read most of the book is up there as individual pages and posts, because the main thing for me the big thing with that book was to try and get a lot of information out there that I felt was not being shared in the way it should be in the industry, because it isn't rocket science.
No.
You know, it's something that people can learn. And I think people, an empowered, working with an agency or working with a specialist is almost much better when you've got that grounding of knowledge.
Yeah, I always say it's always good to, even if you don't know what's going on, if you know you don't know what's being done, just an overview of what's going on.
I understand, yeah.
Will help you a lot better.
That's it. Yeah. Plus, you know, I like to think it's got more film quotes than any other SEO book on the market.
Oh, is it? Oh, there we are. Then.
Full of.
Actually, I have read some of it because you give me a copy at Expo.
I did. I'll give anyone a copy if they stand still.
I have read some of it, but like most books that I start reading, I don't always finish them. That's why I prefer audio books.
Oh, see, I did start recording audio chapters. Maybe I'll have to get that done, and then you can listen to my voice for hours.
Well, the thing is, I'm always doing stuff that I'd like to multitask in. So I'm going on a ride on my bike, or I'm in the car and there's nothing on the radio, or I don't want to listen to music, or I'm cooking and I want to listen to something. So I'll put an audio book on my phone and just have headphones on, and I can do whatever then.
Well, there you go. You've sold me now. I will get on. I will record the remaining chapters.
You can't do that with a book, see. You can't cook or drive or ride a bike whilst reading a book.
It's frowned upon. Yeah, in many areas, it's actively.
Well, it's actually against the law, I think, in a car. I'm not sure it's against the law on a bike.
Yeah, they're not keen, I'd say.
Yeah. On a bike, I just think it would look strange riding
so
around.
On balance, yeah.
How would you turn the pages? That would be difficult.
I don't know. I think you could get kind of, I think if you sort of be very, sort of if you had one of those little baskets on the front, sort of an upright, sitting up your bike reading your book, you could look very kind of, very French about it all, wouldn't you?
Why French? But yeah, it does look French.
I don't know. It does. And you get a little you get a little bit of kind of, music in the background. It'd be marvellous.
Yeah, definitely. There we are then. Well, yeah, is that all the plugin? That's all the places.
That's all my plugin. That's the easy.
And you're on LinkedIn as well, aren't you, Chris?
I'm all over the LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm easy to find there.
Anyone B2B is on LinkedIn, and you're B2B, B2C. Well, B2B mostly, you do. Yeah. The clients you work for are B2B, B2C, but you're B2B. Yeah. So, all right, then that's pretty much it for me. So just thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Right. Very welcome. Thanks for listening.
And, have a great day.
And you. Bye.
All the best. Bye-bye. Right, nothing else left for me to say now other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening. Cheers. Bye-bye.